In this lecture, I want you to know that we have better ways to create classes through other IDEs like Microsoft Visual Studio and basically any other IDE you're going to be using out there. But Visual Studio Code is special in that it really is not an IDE. It is a glorified text editor, and we have the ability to do cool stuff with C++ because of the extension that we have installed. But that extension, unfortunately, isn't giving us access to an easier way to create classes directly. But we're going to show you that you can do that in this lecture by using other IDEs. So for example, here I have CodeLight opened. You see here, this is the CodeLight IDE. And I am going to create a junk project just to show you that you can play with this. We're going to create a project and call it Sandbox. Why not? It's going to live somewhere on your drive, and it's going to be living in some workspace, but it's going to be a C++20 project. It's going to be a console project. Make sure you are using these settings here, and we're going to hit OK. This is going to create our project. It's going to have the main CPP file that we have grown to know and love, and we're going to take out what we don't need. And we're going to just say stdc out hello. And if we run this by coming to build and run, we should have a window pop up saying hello here. So this is our program. Now we want to see how we can create a class from this IDE. All you have to do is come to the source folder here and say new class. You right click, you're going to get a menu here, and it's going to say new class. You see that you have a nice window in which you can type information about your classes. For example, our class is going to be called Cylinder. Let's put the name here, like we did in the last lecture. And you see we have a lot of information here, but we don't really care about all these guys. So you can put in a few settings. For example, we can use HPP instead of .h as our header extension, but I like .h, so we can use that. And we're going to use lowercase file names because that's really what I like. If you don't check this, the header and the CPP file are going to have names that start with uppercase letters. If you want that, you can uncheck that, but I really like lowercase file names, so that's what I'm going to choose. We don't have enough information to understand all the other options here, but we're going to use our class as is for now. Let's hit OK and see what we get from the IDE. You see we have a header file, which is going to put in our include guard. You already know this. And we have a class definition in here, which is pretty good. You see we have a few things inside. We have the public keyword here, and we have a constructor, which is not going to take anything. And we have another method from the class that we don't know about yet. So for now, I'm going to take this out. And if you look down, we have cylinder.cpp. It's going to include our cylinder header file, and we have the implementations here. Okay, so from this point on, you can start from here and really modify things. So this is helpful if you ask some people, but I personally usually take all this out anyway because I really like to have control on how I create my classes. But you have to know that some IDEs are going to give you this option and create the class for you and give you a blueprint or a starting point where you can start doing your own things. The only benefit I find with this is that this is going to put together include guards for you because I really hate doing this. So the IDE is going to take care of this. But other than that, I usually go in and type the class definition myself and split things up however I want. This is how you can do this using the CodeLight IDE. It is also possible to do the same in the Microsoft Visual Studio IDE. Here I have a sample project open. You see we have the main function here. And if we run this by going to debug and start without debugging, we should see a window saying hello world in a minute. Let's wait. Okay, the build is good. You see hello world here, but we want to create a class. What you do if you want to create a class, you come to the project name here, and it is not the solution name in Visual Studio. It is the project name that I have selected here, which is highlighted in blue. You right click, you come to add, and it's going to give you a few options. We're going to choose class here, and it's going to give us a window which is strikingly similar to what we had with code light in a minute. We're going to put in our class name, cylinder, and you see it's going to give us the names here. I don't like these uppercase names, so I am going to change this to lowercase cylinder for the names of my files. We're not going to put any other thing here because we really are using the basics here. So once we have the name of the class, the name for the files in, we're going to hit OK. And the IDE is going to create these classes here. You see, it's not using include guards. It's using what we call pragma once here. And this is basically to be like letting the compiler generate the include guards for you. So this is another syntax you can use for this. We have the header, which is going to have our class definition. We also have a CPP file, which is going to have the implementation. And if we want, we can go from Visual Studio Code and copy the files, or we can set up our classes however we want. Once we have the class, we're going to head over in the main function and include the class. For example, we can say include cylinder, and this is going to be available and usable in the main function here, and you can go on and use your class however you want. This is the facility I wanted you to see. If you happen to be not using Visual Studio Code, use this. At least it is going to generate the include guards and it's going to give you a good starting point. It's going to create these files for you so that you don't have to create them yourself. It's useful. If you have this feature, make sure you are using it. This is really all I had to share in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to show you how you can manage class objects through pointers. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.